The Millionaire and the Black Beggar, a story of hope and change. Marcus Bennett used to be the king of Riverton's skyline, a 4-star general with a smile that could light up the tallest towers and a reputation as solid as steel. The city's glossy glass walls reflected his bright future, but beneath, the streets whispered secrets he wished he never heard. One afternoon, in the heart of downtown, a crowd swarmed outside City Hall. Flashing cameras caught Marcus shuffling out, his uniform stripped of stars, his chest tight with shame. Rumours screamed corruption, betrayal, treason. The man who once commanded armies was now a ghost in his own city. His hands trembled, fingers digging into his coat, as voices sliced through the chill. How could this happen? A woman gasped nearby. He was untouchable, the golden boy. Marcus didn't deny it. The ache twisting deep in his gut was real. His whole life, his legacy, crumbled in hours. To the public, he was a fallen hero. To himself, a stranger boxed in shadows he'd long ignored. Then, on a forgotten street corner where the skyscraper's shadows hit like cold waves, he saw her, Elise. Her eyes, sharp and watching, held storms and silence all at once. The city passed her by, a black woman with clothes torn at the seams, her presence barely noticed. Yet when Marcus met her gaze, the world seemed to stop. Her face was a map of battles. Not the kind marked on war charts, but raw fights for survival nobody talked about. She didn't speak much, but something about her was magnetic. A flicker of recognition lived in those haunted eyes, and as they crossed words for the first time, Marcus felt the weight of a past he didn't realize he'd left behind, and maybe secrets he couldn't escape. Elise's voice cut sharp through the noise. People like me know what it means to lose everything. You think you're the only one with scars? Think again. Behind the shadows, a politician lurked, a vulture hungry for power, eager to tear both their lives apart. His name, ... circulated in hushed warnings. A man who thrived on exposing weakness, twisting truths into weapons. Marcus heard the threat in every whispered phone call, every sideways glance. He knew if he wasn't careful, this man would finish what his own army abandoned, destroy both Marcus and Elise. But what no one knew yet was how tightly their stories were knotted. Battles fought in war zones and on city streets. Betrayals that cut them both deep. Secrets surfacing crawled at the edges of Marcus's determination. Could he clear his name? Could Elise find a fresh start in a city that had already thrown her away? They moved forward, broken and cautious, searching for truth in a maze of lies. Every step cracked open more wounds. Trust was scarce. Shadows grew darker. And just when the veil seemed close to lifting, the ground shifted beneath them. And everything they thought they knew about each other, the war, even loyalty, turned upside down. The question hung heavy. Who could they really believe? And was saving themselves even possible? Something was coming. Something fierce. A storm that would sweep them into its eye, forcing Marcus to fight not just for honor, but for what made him human. And for Elise, it was a fight to rise above the darkness that chased her every breath. But what truth could be powerful enough to save them both without destroying them? First, hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. They move forward, broken and cautious, searching for truth in a maze of lies. Every step cracked open more wounds. Trust was scarce. Shadows grew darker. But just as they felt the edges of a plan forming, a disturbance rippled through the air, an unease that set Marcus on edge. He glanced at Elise, whose expression mirrored his. Concern washed over her face. What was it? Before he could ask, the loud crack of gunfire shattered the uneasy calm. Chaos erupted, screams tearing through the chilly afternoon. People scattered like leaves in a storm. A figure had stumbled into their view, clutching their stomach, eyes wide with shock. The crowd froze for a heartbeat, absorbing the gravity of the moment. "Marcus!" Elise shouted, her voice a frantic lifeline. She grabbed his arm, boom, pulling him toward a shadowed alley beside them, away from the turmoil. "We have to go, now!" But he was rooted to the spot. The face of the fallen man was unmistakable. Jonathan Doherty, the very politician they'd heard murmured threats about. Blood pooled beneath him, a stark contrast against the slick sidewalk. His eyes searched the chaos, and for a fleeting second, they locked with Marcus's. A flash of panic. Then, another shot rang out, and Jonathan's head jerked back, collapsing like a rag doll. A wave of horror swept through Marcus. The world buried its ugly truth beneath glossy facades. But now, all the lies cracked open in the wake of violence. "What just happened?" he whispered, his heart racing. Elise tightened her grip. "This isn't just an attack, it's a setup. They'll come for us too." As sirens wailed, the furious energy of the crowd turned into dangerous confusion. A mere second passed, and then chaos unleashed like a wild beast. Marcus felt the heat of the city closing in, and instinct kicked in. He turned back to Elise. "We need to get out. They'll blame us." A shudder rumbled through the ground as police cars skidded to a halt. Blue and red lights flashed, slicing through the shadows. Officers burst from the vehicles, shouts merging with the crowd's cries. But just as they approached Jonathan's body, a splatter of chaos erupted. They raised their weapons high, a collective gasp from onlookers echoing through the air. That was when something within Marcus snapped. An undeniable clarity. Somehow he knew this moment was more than just survival. This was a turning point. "Elise, listen! We have to go!" But in the whirlwind of sound, he didn't hear her response. A thick fog of realization cut through the noise. With Jonathan dead, the secrets they had chased might die with him, unless it was already too late. What if Jonathan had more power than they knew? What if the very scandals that brought him down were the same ones tied to Marcus's downfall? "I've got to know," Marcus muttered, more to himself than Elise. He darted a glance toward the scene, and panic filled him. Then, through the chaos, he caught sight of something. Another figure moving away from the fray. A familiar silhouette, too familiar. It was a face he had trusted unconditionally. Someone who now stood in stark contrast to the nightmare unfolding. "Marcus!" Elise shouted again, but the urgency in her voice faded behind his own horror as the figure turned, locking eyes with him. The world spun, each beat of his heart echoing one chilling thought. Could this person be the reason everything had spiraled out of control? He wasn't sure what revelations awaited him, but one thing was clear. The truth was closer. Yet it felt more dangerous than ever. The question hung heavy. What secrets were woven into the fabric of their lives? And could anyone truly escape the web of betrayal that threatened to swallow them whole? Time stood still. His breath quickened. The storm was just beginning. They stood there, breathing in a moment that felt like it could stretch for eternity. Marcus and Elise, two unlikely allies searching for a way out of despair. Heavy expectations weighed on their shoulders with each tension-filled second. Trust was fragile, hanging by a thread. Yet they moved forward, united in their struggle. But the city's pulse thrummed beneath them, a restless heartbeat, as whispers of urgency grew louder. The air thickened, shadows shifted. Then, without warning, everything changed. A deafening blast echoed in the distance, shaking the pavement beneath their feet. It was a sound unlike any other. An explosion that sent debris flying, shrapnel glistening like cruel stars against the grey skyline. Panic erupted around them. People screamed, a wave of terror swelling within the crowd and crashing over Marcus and Elise. Marcus grabbed Elise's arm, pulling her close. Instinct kicking in. "We need to move!" he shouted, heart racing, but it felt like quicksand. Every step forward pulled them deeper into chaos. They stumbled through the swirling dust, disoriented. And then, through the haze, they saw it. City Hall engulfed in flames. Fire licking at the sky like a ravenous beast. The building where Marcus had faced his downfall was now a roaring inferno, illuminating the darkness like a beacon of despair. "Marcus!" Elise cried, voice strained. But before he could reply, a figure emerged from the smoke, a silhouette against the fiery backdrop. It was unmistakable, a familiar face twisted in the chaos. The politician, the one lurking behind the shadows. Victor Hale. What the hell is happening? Marcus felt cold dread slither down his spine as he recognized Hale in the midst of the chaos. Grinning, eyes gleaming with something sinister. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Hale shouted above the pandemonium, arms outstretched. "All of it. Your downfall, your shame, your city burning. It's art, Marcus. A masterpiece. The glee in his voice sent a chill through Marcus's bones. What do you mean, you did this? Elise's voice trembled with disbelief. Hale's laughter rang out like a bell of mockery, sharp and clear. Didn't you realize this was never about you two? It's about power, about me. He pointed to Marcus, then to Elise, as if marking his prey. You were just tools in my grand design. Marcus felt rage bubble within him, but it was quickly swallowed by confusion. You wanted to destroy me. Why drag her into this? The accusation hung in the air, heavy and ripe with danger. Because she's worth more than you know, Hale said softly, eyes narrowing. You've been blind, Marcus. You think you've lost everything? Elise holds a key, a piece of the truth about you, about the past. In that moment, something clicked. The weight in Marcus's chest transformed into a hollow pit. His past, with all its battles and betrayals, screamed back at him. What do you know? He demanded, voice cracking under pressure. But before Hale could answer, a figure stepped from the flames. A bystander, engulfed in smoke, yet moving toward them, eyes wild. It's her! She knows! The voice cut through the noise. A woman, half shadow, half fire. Adrenaline shot through Marcus, panic clawing at his gut. He turned to Elise, who looked frozen. No, he breathed, the reality crashing down. Not you. What's happening? The edges of her expression flickered, a storm brewing under the surface. I was going to tell you, Marcus. I just didn't know how. It's about the war. My family. Her voice faltered, holding secrets that felt like molten metal in the air between them. The chaos roared around them. Yet in that moment, silence enveloped them. Trust shattered, relationships hanging by a thread. The air crackled. Something was coming. The questions loomed larger than the flames. Who was Elise, really? And could he ever trust her again? As they stood at the edge of destruction, Marcus's heart raced with a new urgency. When everything burned, what future would rise from the ashes? As the chaos swirled around them, Marcus felt the weight of Elise's unspoken words pressing down like the fire raging behind them. What is it? He urged, barely able to hear over the cacophony. The heat from the flames licked at his skin, and the acrid smoke filled his lungs. But nothing was as suffocating as the tension hanging in the air. I'll explain later, Elise cried, her voice barely audible, but her eyes were wild, searching for something or someone. Panic sliced through Marcus's chest. Time was slipping away, the urgency of survival sharpening focus like a knife's edge. Elise, please, he shouted, desperate. We have to move! But just then, she stepped back, her gaze locking onto something behind him. No, it's him! Before Marcus could turn, a roar erupted. A black SUV barreled through the chaos, tires screeching against the pavement as it skidded to a halt mere feet from them. The crowd hesitated, unsure whether to flee or stay, until the doors burst open. Gunfire erupted, and shards of glass exploded. Screams pierced the air like sirens, thick with terror. Elise stumbled into Marcus, instinct pulling her closer as they both sought shelter. Get down! He yelled, pulling her behind a nearby dumpster. The world above them transformed into a hellscape. Bullets whizzing, people running, panic enveloping like an endless wave. Then, through the chaos, a voice boomed, cutting through the noise. "It's not me you should be worried about, Marcus." High and mocking. Marcus turned slowly, eyes widening. Victor Hale stood near the SUV, unharmed, his sinister grin stretching wider as he watched the scene unfold. "No, stop!" Elise gasped, clutching at Marcus. But the flurry of voices around them morphed into a chorus of confusion. They were trapped, and then, without warning, the second blast hit. A tremor shook the ground. The SUV, it exploded. Flames shot up like a towering inferno. Heat burned in waves, knocking them back. Marcus shielded Elise instinctively, heart racing. In the wreckage, a figure emerged through the smoke. It wasn't Victor. It was someone else. A woman cloaked in shadows, face hidden. She moved with a purpose, eyes locked onto Marcus. "Elise!" Marcus called out, trying to shake the confusion. But the woman pointed directly at Marcus, speaking urgently, her words hoarse yet clear. "You can't trust her." "That's enough!" Victor shouted, stepping back, demeanor shifting abruptly. Eyes narrowed in realization, like a predator focusing in on its prey. "You shouldn't be here!" Who was she? A former ally? A ghost from his past? The revelation hit him like a gust of icy wind, freezing the confusion in his heart. "Marcus, don't listen!" Elise's voice sliced through the haze. "She's lying!" But the woman continued, "You don't know who she is. You think you've lost everything? You have no idea." Marcus's thoughts spun. His mind raced. Back through memories, whispers of secrets, the war, buried truths. Every moment collided. Elise's family, his past, their shared moments, all leading to this volatile moment. Fire crackled, darkness edging closer. "What do you mean?" Marcus questioned, his voice trembling. "Your life, Marcus, was never just yours to lose," she shouted, conviction fueling the words. "She's been playing you, playing everyone." In that instant, the world felt cold around him, and doubt crept into his heart. "What are you saying?" The woman took a step closer. "You're chasing shadows and lies. She knows more than she's ever told you." Everything Marcus thought was solid crumbled. Fear gripped him. "Elise!" he whispered. But there was no answer. She stood, frozen, eyes wide, emotions swirling like the flames around them. "Tell me it's not true," he begged her, the lump in his throat rising. But the answer he saw unfolding in her eyes screamed louder than words, drowning out the chaos around them. The truth began to unravel, offering up twists he never saw coming. Could I have been so blind? As the explosions echoed and flames danced, one truth hung heavier than the wreckage. Everything he thought he knew about Elise, about his own life, was in question. What secrets were buried in the ashes, waiting to rise? And could he ever find his way back to trust? Or was it all an illusion meant to shatter him completely? Time moved, but they stood still, trapped in the heart of chaos, wondering what revelation lay next as shadows engulfed them. They moved forward, broken and cautious, searching for truth in a maze of lies. Each step felt heavy, filled with the weight of untold stories and tentative trust. But as they walked side by side, something shifted in the air, a tension that made the hairs on Marcus's neck stand up. A shadow slipped by, and in that moment, he could feel a storm brewing. Suddenly, a thunderous crash resonated through the streets. The ground shook, and dust erupted like an angry beast stirring from slumber. Marcus and Elise stumbled, wide-eyed, as a nearby building exploded. Bricks and glass spraying away like confetti. Screams echoed. People ran. The city they once knew was morphing into chaos. "What the hell?" Marcus gasped, adrenaline coursing through him, heart pounding like a war drum. Elise's face was painted with shock, her mouth slightly open as she grasped his arm tightly. The politician's name, the one lurking in the shadows, flashed in Marcus's mind. This had his fingerprints all over it. An assassination to silence his scandal. A dark reminder of the price of betrayal. But then he spotted something. A dark figure standing where the debris cloud swirled, almost detached from the world. It wore shadows like an overcoat. As the dust settled, the figure stepped forward, and every muscle in Marcus's body tensed, because standing there was not just any politician, it was Elise's brother, Julian, presumed dead in the conflict years ago. "Julian?" Elise whispered, disbelief washing over her features. Marcus blinked, unable to believe his eyes. This moment felt surreal. A break in reality where fate had twisted relationships in a way he could never have anticipated. But Julian wasn't just a survivor. He was a ghost from Elise's past. A trauma resurfacing to ignite danger. "What are you doing here?" Elise's voice cracked, melding relief and fear. "I've come for you," Julian replied, voice steady, but hiding an undertone of urgency. His eyes shifted to Marcus, narrowing, calculating. "You shouldn't be with him." "Huh? You think she's safe here? Not with you. Not here." Marcus fired back, instinctively stepping closer to Elise. Protectively. Shock coursed through Elise as silence fell, punctuated only by distant sirens. Terseness crackled through the air between them. Julian's gaze darkened. "He's not the man you think he is. You're both pawns in a game much bigger than you know. They aim to destroy you both. Don't you see?" "Stop!" Elise cried, pain cutting through her. The weight of betrayal spilling from her voice. "This isn't a game. What did you even mean by that?" But before Julian could respond, more explosions rattled the city. Panic spread like wildfire, and Marcus caught a glimpse of the dark politicians' men dressed in sleek suits, moving through the chaos as if orchestrating it. "We need to get out of here," he shouted. "Why should we trust you?" Marcus spat, throwing all his energy into his words. But Julian's expression said it all. He was trapped in this too, surrounded by secrets and lies. "Because I know who's behind it all, and they're coming for you next." The ground beneath them rolled again, uncertainty rising like smoke in the air. Elise's eyes darted between the men, One a shadow from her past, the other a fallen soldier seeking redemption. Who could she trust? Who was really there to help her? Marcus felt the walls closing in, like the air turned to syrup, heavy with tension. But truth was elusive, and just when everything seemed clear, a chilling doubt washed over him. Could Julian be the key to unraveling the chaos? Or were they stepping deeper into a trap? "Run!" someone cried out in the distance, but it was already too late. The line between ally and enemy blurred into nothingness, and all that was certain was this: what they thought they knew had shattered in an instant. What would rise next in the aftermath? The question hung heavy in the air, thick with uncertainty. Then, just as the skyline began to darken with impending doom, a blaring siren shattered the uneasy silence. Marcus and Elise turned, startled. A police cruiser raced down the street, lights flashing, its wail piercing through the murmur of the crowd like a knife. Without warning, the vehicle screeched to a stop nearby. Officers jumped out, guns drawn. Murmurs turned into gasps. Faces reflected shock and fear as people backed away, eyes darting in confusion. "What's happening?" Marcus whispered, his gut twisting tighter than ever. But Elise was already moving. She bolted towards the chaos. Instinct kicking in. Marcus's heart raced as he followed. His military training ignited in a rush of adrenaline. The world around him blurred as he saw Elise's determination drive her forward, her gaze locked on a gathering of figures in the distance. In the midst of the shuffle, a man emerged from the crowd, dishevelled, wild-eyed, and out of place among the suited officials. He stumbled, sweat glistening on his brow. With every step closer, Marcus could see the despair etched across the man's features. "Someone's coming for me!" the man cried, his voice cracking under the weight of fear. "You have to listen! There's something you don't know!" Marcus felt a chill creep down his spine. Elise reached the man first, her voice strong, composed. "Who's coming? What do you mean?" The man grabbed her arm, fingers trembling. "It's about the general and the beggar." "You're not who you think you are." A wave of confusion swept over Marcus. "What are you talking about? I'm Marcus Bennett." "Marcus?" The man's eyes widened. "You think you're just a fallen star?" "No. You're a pawn in a game way bigger than you realize. They're using you to distract from what really happened." Behind them, the crowd was thickening, the fear palpable as whispers turned into frantic chatter. The officer shouted commands, trying to restore order. But the intrusion only fueled the frenzy. A few people gawked at Marcus, their eyes scanning him like he was the guilty one. "What do you mean?" Elise pressed, stepping closer. The urgency in her voice sent a jolt through Marcus. "What's your evidence?" "I can prove it," the man stammered, desperation swirling around him. "There are files, tapes, things they don't want out. You're not just broken, you're part of something dangerous." Then it hit Marcus. Every secret, every betrayal, all the shadows he had felt creeping into his life. "What are you saying?" he breathed, a lump forming in his throat. Just then, the unmistakable sound of the gun being cocked echoed ominously. Marcus turned. An officer trained his weapon at the strange man, eyes aflame with authority. "Back away! Get down!" Fear exploded in an instant. Hands raised, Elise stepped between the man and the officer. But the tension surged with every heartbeat. "No! Stop!" she shouted, voice cutting above the tumult like glass shattering. In that moment, there it was. A flash of recognition in the officer's eyes. The gun wavered as Marcus felt the air drain from his lungs. The world around him dimmed, shadows crawling back into his mind like long-forgotten memories. "What truth?" Marcus demanded, heart pounding. "What do you know?" But before they could bring forth the truth, a deafening gunshot rang out. Time froze. The sound hung in the air, jagged like broken glass. Faces turned, breath caught. Elise fell, hit. Marcus stumbled forward, panic igniting his every nerve. "No!" he screamed, reaching her just as the world around him spun into chaos. And just like that, everything changed. The street buzzed with tension, a charged atmosphere that wrapped around Marcus and Elise. Like storm clouds, everything felt heavy, like a load pressing down on their chests. They were standing together, edges frayed but determined, eyes scanning for something, anything that could guide them out of the shadows. Then came the sirens, shrill and sudden, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. Marcus's heart raced. He turned to Elise, looking for answers in her steady gaze. But before he could utter a word, chaos erupted. A parade of police cars flew past, lights flashing, tires screeching. The crowd stirred, whispers turning to shouts, confusion spilling like ink on a blank page. Without a moment's notice, a figure burst from the throng. It was the politician, eyes wild, skin pale. His suit looked sharp, but his expression was anything but put together. He marched towards them, and Marcus felt an icy knot form in his gut. "They know!" the man yelled, voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "They know what you did!" The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Marcus's breath hitched. He glanced at Elise, who looked just as lost, just as shaken. What did he mean? An electric tension sparked, igniting every nerve in his body. "Get away from her!" Marcus shouted, stepping in front of Elise, instincts kicking in. But the politician laughed, a harsh, scornful sound, echoing off the glass towers. "Oh, you poor fool! You really think you can protect? Huh? You're both just pawns in a game you don't even understand." Then, as if conjured by the chaos, another figure stepped forward. This one was older, balding, and as familiar to Marcus as his own reflection. It was his former closest friend, Kevin. An icy dread slowly crept into Marcus's veins. "Kevin, what are you doing here?" "We're in deep, Marcus." Kevin's voice was low but firm. "They have evidence. Evidence that ties you both to things far worse than you can imagine." Marcus felt the world slip. He looked at Elise, her face a mask of confusion. Of something else? Was it fear? Or was there more hiding behind those stormy eyes? What do you mean?" He could scarcely breathe. "It's about the deals, the ones that got you both here," Kevin continued, urgency bubbling under the surface. "There's more at stake than you know." With that, the crowd erupted with shouts again. "No way!" someone yelled. "He's a traitor!" Another voice cried out, "Get them!" All at once, chaos reigned. People surged toward Marcus and Elise. Fingers pointing, voices rising like a wave. It swelled, a storm, ready to break. But then a shot rang out. Loud and startling, every head turned. Sound warped for a moment, time slowed. Marcus felt the blast in his chest. The crowd gasped, a singular breath in unison. Elise's eyes widened, shock eclipsing her features. He spun around. ... His heart pounding. Kevin was on the ground, blood pooling beneath him, eyes staring wide in disbelief. No! Marcus's voice erupted from his throat. With panic clawing through him, he turned back to Elise. But she wasn't just watching. She was moving, slipping through the chaos toward Kevin's still form, her hands reaching. What's happening, Marcus? What truth did we step into? And in that moment, everything broke apart. The ties, the secrets, the emotions all twisted together into a knot that was tightening, pulling at them, strangling them, as reality splintered in all directions. Who are we really? Marcus yelled, voice lost in the tumult. But as he reached for her, she was gone, swallowed by the crowd. The world spun, shadows closed in, and somewhere at the eye of this gathering storm, truth loomed, dark and terrible. Marcus felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins, but panic eclipsed everything as he realized Elise was slipping away. He reached out, but the chaos swallowed her. Elise! His voice barely made it through the cacophony. People screamed, voices rising and falling like a tide. The crowd surged, blocking his view as he fought against it. Desperation gripping him tight. He had to find her. She had to know what Kevin had just revealed. Get away from him! Elise shouted, her voice faint but fierce. But Marcus couldn't see her anymore. Only shifting shadows, terrified faces. Panic rose inside him, tightening his chest. Kevin's body lay motionless, eyes glazed. A wave of sorrow crashed over Marcus. He broke free of the crowd, fighting to get closer. But Elise was gone, lost in the turmoil. He wheeled around just as the dark figure of Julian loomed before him, eyes burning with intensity. Marcus, stop! Julian shouted, stepping closer, urgency in his tone. But Marcus couldn't think, couldn't see beyond his fear. You're playing a dangerous game. Before he could respond, a loud crack echoed through the chaos. Another gunshot, this time much closer. No! Someone yelled, but it was too late. As the shot rang out, time seemed to freeze. His heart thundered in his chest. Marcus spun around, eyes wild. A figure crumpled to the ground near the edge of the crowd. It was Elise. Panic surged through him like a tidal wave. Elise! He sprinted to her, the world fading away. She lay there motionless, her chest barely rising, blood soaking through her clothes. The crowd hissed in horror and stepped back, creating a circle around them. Time fractured into moments, stretched like rubber bands. Marcus, you came. Her voice was a whisper. Barely carried by the wind. He knelt beside her, cradling her head in his arms, desperate to remember the warmth of her smile, the fire in her eyes. Stay with me! Hold on! He urged, but the life was slipping from her. I'm so sorry, she replied, gasping. I should have told you the truth. Don't talk, just hold on. He felt the sting of tears welling in his eyes, blurring his vision. Could this be the end? Not like this. Not here. Not now. Then the air pierced with another sound, not of destruction, but a voice, heavy with regret and hardness. "It's too late for that." Marcus's heart sank as he turned. There stood Victor Hale, smirk painted across his face. Shadows pooling around him. "It's a bit late to oh so innocently declare your love, isn't it, Marcus? She's caught in a world that's always been beyond your reach." "What did you do?" Marcus's voice trembled. "You think this ends with her?" Just then the crowd gasped and a woman broke through. With frazzled hair and determined eyes, she pointed straight at Victor. "This is what you wanted. You think you've won. They're stronger than you know." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him as the woman stepped closer. "The files, the truth. You took everything, don't you get it? But not forever." Elise coughed, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. "Marcus, you don't understand," the woman continued. "She's part of it. She knows more than you can imagine." "Shut up," Victor yelled, his control slipping. "No, you need to hear this." Before anyone could react, the loud sound of sirens echoed in the distance, wailing closer and closer, pounding like a drum. They were coming for him, for Elise, for everything he believed. In that moment, Elise's eyes widened, an understanding blooming behind her pain. "I thought you were the enemy, Marcus." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But I was wrong. I've been wrong. I was part of something awful. The truth is I was never just an innocent beggar." Marcus's world shattered. Everything he thought he knew cracked apart like glass. "What do you mean? Elise, don't!" But as the sirens blared, a single ember flickered in their midst. A figure rose from the fallen chaos. Not Elise, but Julian, stepping forward with an unsettling calmness. "We're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting to uncover the truth about everything. And that includes you, Marcus." And just like that, the foundation of reality trembled. Trust hung in the balance, and every revelation twisted the threads that bound them. As the storm gathered, reality churned, and right before Marcus's eyes, Elise slipped into unconsciousness. Time halted, secrets poised to explode, leaving him on the knife's edge of truth. Wondering just who was really the enemy, and who could ever reveal the light from the shadows. The world felt like it was teetering on the edge of destruction. Sirens wailed in the distance, a reminder that time was running out. Marcus cradled Elise in his arms, the warmth fading from her skin, panic blooming in his chest. He couldn't let her slip away. "Stay with me!" he pleaded, but her eyes fluttered as she struggled for breath. The chaos around them blurred into a backdrop of shouts and sirens. Julian stood frozen, mouth agape, while Victor sneered, watching with cruel satisfaction. The crowd stirred, a storm of emotions, fear, anger, curiosity. Then, through the noise, a new figure emerged. A woman stepped forward, her face hidden in the crowd's shadow, a determined fierceness in her stance. "Get back!" she cried, pushing her way through the throng like a force of nature. "He's not safe. You need to get away from here." Her words pierced the chaos, and the crowd hesitated, shifting anxiously. "Who are you?" Marcus shouted, his voice raw. But the woman locked her gaze on Elise, eyes aflame with urgency. "Elise, don't you see? This isn't just about you." Marcus felt anger flare. "What do you mean?" Elise coughed again, blood staining her lips as she whispered, I thought you'd understand." "No, you don't get it. There's a bigger game here," the woman insisted, lunging closer. "You have no idea what you're up against." But before she could explain, a sudden blast filled the air. A deafening explosion tore through the street, sending waves of heat and debris in all directions. The crowd erupted into chaos, scattering like startled birds. "Get down!" Marcus shouted as he shielded Elise, his instincts overriding his horror. The world turned to fire and smoke, a living nightmare that threatened to swallow them whole. Through the blinding chaos, Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. He struggled to see through the dusk and haze, desperate to maintain a grasp on reality. Just then, the woman appeared again, her face visible now, a raw intensity in her expression. "Marcus, listen!" she yelled over the chaos. Desperation etched into her features. "You don't realize what's happening. Everything you think you know is a lie." A deep chill coursed through him. "What lie?" Her eyes widened as the dust began. "Cassetto, your father. What about him?" But before she could finish, a shrill scream pierced through the chaos. "Look out!" someone yelled. A figure sprang from the smoke, wild-eyed and twisted, wielding a knife, a man frenzied with urgency and misunderstanding. Marcus's instincts kicked in. He lunged, pushing Elise to safety as the man rushed forward. But in a shocking instant, Victor slipped between them, eyes glinting with something dark. And the man plunged the knife straight into his side. "No!" Marcus shouted, panic ripping through him as Victor collapsed, shock crossing his face. The crowd froze, every breath held in horror. "Marcus, help him!" Elise cried, voice trembling. But Marcus felt a strange unease wash over him. Was this a game? Suddenly the woman's words echoed in his mind. "Your father." The pieces clicked violently into place. "My father? What does this have to do with him?" Before anyone could respond, Victor's eyes fluttered as he struggled for breath, his face pale. She has the files, the truth, about everything," he gasped, blood pooling beneath him. Marcus's heart pounded. Victor was unraveling, leaving secrets hanging in the air like smoke. The ground felt shaky beneath him. Trust crumbling away. What truth? "Trust no one," Victor choked, locking eyes with Marcus. A final gasp escaped his lips, and he lay still, leaving nothing but echoing silence. Everything tipped into chaos again. The weight of betrayal, stinging sharply as the crowd erupted, panic spiraling out. Elise's eyes were wide with fear and confusion, shadows closing in around them. The woman stepped in front of them, urgency etched in her features. "If you want to understand, you have to follow me." Marcus looked at Elise, uncertainty gripping his heart. Fear hung in the air, mingling with the scent of smoke. And as they made eye contact, everything transformed. Could he trust this stranger? What secrets had just tumbled into the light? As they moved through the throng, uncertainties and shadows loomed larger than before, pulling them deeper into a web of unseen truths. What lay beyond this moment? Would they ever see the light again? Would he ever understand the truth about his past and Elise? Was she an ally or another piece of the puzzle he had yet to solve? The storm continued to rage, and Marcus knew they were only at the beginning of an unraveling that could destroy them all. As chaos enveloped them, Marcus held Elise tightly, feeling her ragged breaths against his chest. Her blood stained his shirt, pooling with the warmth of his fear. "Stay with me," he urged, but her eyes fluttered, struggling to focus. "You have to listen," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's not what you think." Dark shapes shifted behind them as panic rippled through the crowd. The woman from earlier pushed forward, determination in her eyes. "We need to leave! Now!" The urgency in her voice snapped Marcus back. He glanced at Victor, the man who had manipulated them all, now lifeless on the ground. "What about the files? The truth?" he shouted, desperate for answers. "Follow me!" the woman yelled, grabbing Marcus's arm. He hesitated, torn between Elise and the rising tide of chaos. But looking down into Elise's fading eyes, he felt the weight of her trust. "Okay, let's go!" He hoisted her up, wrapping her arms around his neck. They stumbled through the scattering crowd, the wails of sirens echoing through the chaos. The woman led them away from the horror, deeper into the shadows of the alleyway, away from the destruction. That loomed. "We have to get her to a hospital," Marcus said, each word punctured by urgency. But the woman only shook her head. "There's no time for that," she insisted, her eyes wide with fear. "They'll track us if we go to the hospital. We need to get the files first." "What files?" Marcus yelled, panic rising in his throat. "The truth about Victor, about your father, everything! It's all there!" Her voice was frantic, yet determined. "We're running out of time." Elise's grip tightened, whispering, "You have to trust her, Marcus." Heart pounding, Marcus nodded slightly, pushing forward as they navigated through the smoke and debris. He didn't know if he trusted this woman, but he couldn't risk losing Elise. Every step felt like a countdown, time compressing with a force he couldn't fight. They turned a corner, skirting around fallen bricks and shattered glass, and there it was, a nondescript van parked against the alley wall, doors slightly ajar. "Get in!" the woman urged, her voice firm. Marcus eased Elise onto the back seat, her breathing shallow. He climbed in next to her, feeling her head lean against him, and it broke him. "You're going to be okay." The woman slid in, eyes darting around the street as she quickly slammed the door shut. "We need to move." Just as the engine roared to life, a loud crash echoed from behind them. Marcus turned. Spoiler! Shadows pressed against the chaos. Dark suits, faces filled with malice. They were coming. "Go! Go!" he shouted, heart racing. The van screeched away, wheels spinning against the pavement, as sirens wailed in the distance, merging with the alarm in his chest. "We need the files," she repeated, glancing at Marcus. "There's a safe house nearby. Once we have them, we'll be able to expose everything. We can stop this." "Then let's do it," Marcus replied, grit filling his voice. He looked at Elise, her eyes fluttering again, surrendering. "Stay with me, Elise. Just a little longer." The van raced through the streets, dodging the chaos that had absorbed their city. They flew past flickering lights and distant cries, uncertainty swirling in the air around them. Marcus felt time break as they pulled into a nondescript building. "Stay close," the woman instructed. "We don't know who's watching." They crept inside, the silence wrapping around them like a shroud. The woman moved swiftly, finding a door that led to a dimly lit room. "Here! This is it!" Marcus followed, holding Elise tightly, refusing to let fear take over. He kept whispering to her, "We'll find a way. I won't let it end here." As they entered the room, the flickering light revealed a desk littered with documents and files. The woman started sorting through them, determination etched on her face. "We need to find the truth." Time felt suspended. With Elise by his side, he realized the weight of everything. Betrayal, loyalty, and the pursuit of truth. Each moment drawing them closer, yet leaving just enough doubt to fester. Marcus glanced down at Elise, her eyes slowly closing. A fierce resolve ignited within him. "You'll be okay. You have to be okay," he murmured. Then the door creaked open, the sound piercing the tension. A figure loomed in the doorway, silhouette sharp against the light. "Looks like you've been busy." The voice was cold, mocking. The weight of dread crashed over Marcus like ice water. Doubt twisted in his stomach. Who was this new player? What other secrets lay hidden, ready to shatter everything? This time, the storm felt different. And as uncertainty draped over them, Marcus knew their fight was far from over. His heart raced. They had come this far, but the truth still dangled just out of reach. Now, about the story, you have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And for the love of good stories, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer to do it.